Hi, this is Bea from Sorcery Soap, and today we're going to make dragon cones. And if you have the book Soap Craft Inspiration, it's on the page right before the introduction, which is on page 1. It's on the left side. I'll put a picture in here. And the reason I put that page there, I put that picture there, is because I wanted to pack this book with as many images as possible. And so this is where we're going to start. This one is going to require most of the things you see here, and I'm going to move through it, and if something comes up that you see that I've used and you want to know about it, leave a comment or message me and I'll explain it. And one of the things I wanted to point out before we began was this little eyelet cutter right here. And I find this so valuable that I'm going to keep these in stock. And the reason being because I make these shapes ahead of time. And so these are fully cured little pieces of soap that are about here, that are that shape and that size. And I use those quite often in different designs. And the reason that I use those is because they're fiddly, 1, and 2, once they're cured, they're pretty hard like that. So they're easy to place and they're easy to keep the shape. And I've not found, I looked everywhere for something like this, and I actually stumbled across it one day, and then I thought I'd try it, and sure enough, that makes for a nice little scale on the dragon, which we're going to use, and it makes for nice little ears. And I'm sure there's a whole bunch of other things you could use it for, but that's what we're going to use it for today. So I already have these pre-cut, and they're a little bit different color. I'm going to use this neon green today, neon green soap dough. And these are some of my tools. I have another tool video, so if you want explanation of some of these tools, you can go over there. And so let's begin. So for those of you who have peeked into the Magic of Soap Dough book, you'll know that I have some tutorials in there, step-by-step tutorials of shapes of soap dough. And one of the shapes I talk about is a cone shape, and that cone shape is very, very useful for a lot of things. So there's the cone shape. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered up. Now I might make things a little bit bigger on screen so that you can see them a bit better. And if you're interested, I can show you how to make the tiny, tiny things I make to scale, but we're going to make it a little bit bigger just for today. So on this account, I'm happy to share what I can with you, depending on what that is. And so if you have a question, I'm happy to answer that. So don't hesitate to ask a question. So if you can see, I use my fingers a lot just to get the shape, get the general shape of it. And so we want his general shape to be a little bit long with a little bit of a, and this is my take on what a little soap dragon looks like. And he's evolved over time. So now I'm going to push on the side because he's going to need a place to rest his head, like that. So, and the whole idea with this is, so far I haven't needed any tools, obviously, so that shows you too that you don't need a lot of tools. These are just the tools that I happen to turn out to like. So this is the dragon is going to rest on the top of the soap like this. And one of the goals of the way I make soap embellishments, which is an embellishment is something that goes on top. It's an additional thing on top. And embed is something that goes inside. But one of the ways that I think about making things like this is I want the soap to be used. I want it to be so charming and so fun that it gets used, and that there aren't a lot of pokey up things, a lot of sticky up things. I don't want things sticking out too much, because those things that stick out too much will break off. And it causes a nightmare for packaging when you seal. If you seal it, I shrink wrap mine because I want them, it's not so much that I think that they're need to be free of touching. It's more important to me that they are not broken. And so I shrink wrap them to protect them from being broken in shipping. And that's just one level of shipping that I do. We can talk about that another day. So there we go, there's that part. Let's put these aside for right now. So I said I had some gold here too. The gold, obviously you could use any variety of gold that you want to use, and you don't even have to use a gold. I just like the gold because it seems like a ice cream cone color. So that's what I chose. Plus, see, this is a little bit dried out right here, but no worries, it just mashes right up. We just want to make sure that we've moved all those little hard pieces out of the and into the softness. So there's still ways to fix that hard soap dough. And it's not super hard, it just takes a little bit of pressure. And if you have a problem with the edges of it, the edges of your soap dough, reach into the center of it a bit more. And it's not that much soap dough if you really can't mash it together if for some reason, or if it's really old. If it's old, you'll know if soap dough is old, it smells terrible. So it does not smell good. This smells just like soap to me, so you'll get a sign for it. And that's like really long time that it takes for soap dough to go bad. So, but if it's too hard for you, all you have to do is put those aside, put those pieces aside, and maybe use them for another project. Okay, so now we have, let's move these guys a little bit over there. So I try to use my fingers to mash and to flatten things as much as possible, so I don't use any more cornstarch than I absolutely have to have. And I know I've seen some people use plastic, put this in between plastic. That, to me, that's just one step. I don't know. I've discovered this, and this is what works for me, so I stay here. I just do this. I've tried it, and it seems, I don't know, causes me a little bit more problem than what I'm looking for. See, I want it to be nice and smooth, right? So there we go. And when soap dough's in a pretty good state like this, you really don't need to, have it. Just a little cornstarch keeps it from sticking. So now I've got this cookie cutter, which has watermarks on it. I have hard water out here, but this cookie cutter I'm going to use, and what it does is it's going to cover up this cone here. So this is the shape. So this is going to help me keep these more uniform. And then this is just the variegation of the cross hatching that I want to use. So there, put that on there. And it can be, I usually try to do that a couple times because there. Now this will tell me how big this is going to be. Let's see, which way do we want to do this? Like here, so see, he's a little bit big. And still, it's okay, no problem. Here we go. Now I can make this triangle a bit bigger if I wanted to, but let's keep moving forward. And that's really the main objective too. I want to show you how to keep moving forward with your designs and your creations. And so let's double check. Yep, he looks good. Okay, great. So let's put a little bit of water on here. See, this is going to stick out right here. There we go. Save all that. Going to need that in a second. And if you just put a little bit of water on stuff, and then just on your soap creations, and then let it set. By the time we get back to it, it'll be fine. So Now we want to put his feet on. So measure his feet about the same. So that's pretty big right there. You don't have to make his feet, but I kind of find them adorable. So this is a teardrop shape. I talk about this in the Magic of Soap Dough too. And here I'm showing you. And this is going to tuck underneath of his head. So we kind of want to put it to the side. Like that. And now you would think that would stick. And it does. There we go. Just a little bit of water. Okay. And now we're going to put his head on. There's his head. Okay, great. Because I've touched this, I want to make these a little sharper in here. Okay, so there he is. And we'll leave that for a second and let him firm up. So I also wanted to point out something. There really is an order to things. So if you can understand the order that things move in, it's going to save you a lot of headache. And I figured out that order that works well for me. And you can build on that and make it a bit different. But having someone plot it out for you makes it easier to create. So I'm now making his eyes right now because I want those to be a little firmer before I put them in. Those look about, nope, that one's a little bit, oops, where did I just go? There it is. Okay, there. See, that doesn't quite, those are, I guess, are all right. Okay. So before I do that, I want these to make sure he's level. So now I'm going to put his nose in. And if you notice, when you press on soap dough that's starting to dry, it can crack. And so just put a little water on there and smooth it over. Soap's pretty resilient in that way. Okay. Now this is the tool that I use. You can find any ball tool, but it sort of fits about that size, and so I've become comfortable in that, and most of my creations are to that scale. And so I'm going to put his eyes, just press a hole for his eyes on either side. And if you have a hard time figuring out if they're even or not, just turn it upside down and you can see. So let's see if I can pick him up. Yep, there we go. A little bit of water, not a lot, just a little bit. And if you paint too much like this, you're going to get bubbles in there, so then you spray it with alcohol and it'll go away. Okay, so before I do anything else, I'm going to pick out some ears and some scales for him. So these are a little different green, which I don't mind. But obviously if you want to make the same color scales and green and whatnot, then you could use the same green. I just thought the neon would be a little bit easier to see on camera. So make sure his head is a little bit, it's pretty balanced. And then I go right up from his ears or his eyes, and then I put his ears in. Remember, he's going to lay flat, so his ears aren't going to break off necessarily. We just want him to look a little bit even. See, now I can see that his head isn't quite, and that'll be fine because he's gonna, all that's gonna be tucked in. Okay. So now put a little bit of, and this is definitely a little bit fiddly. There's a little ear. And so then he has like a little cut in him, which I need to heal. And just push that to the up around there so it looks like it's all part of the same. So his ears look a little smaller than the picture because, well, first I stuck him in a little bit too deep, but also because to scale, he's not the size that's in the book exactly, because I want you to be able to see him on camera. So now we're going to start putting some of his scales on. So one of the scales I like most is the one right in the center of his forehead. Makes it look like a little bindi. So I just put a little water and then place those scales right on top. And try to be as uniform as you can with it, but not necessary. I'm trying anyway. There. So you're not going to see anything else behind him. So we're going to leave him right here for right now. And then I'm going to put his feet in. I'm not dragging, I'm just pushing into it so that I get nice clean lines here, by the way. I just push into it. And that's really what I want right there. So now we're going to make his tail, because I want his tail to come out. Let me give him a little spray of alcohol. He's got some bubbles on his eyes I don't like. Once those bubbles dry, they're really difficult to get off. So I try to get rid of those in the moment. Okay, so I want his tail. So I'm imagining the bar of soap going like this, and then his tail's coming up here like I did in the book. So I want a little bit thin. Now you could use an extruder for this, but I find it, if I'm making a ton of them, and when I mean a ton, I mean like 20 or 40 of these, then I will. But for the most part, not necessary. So then I'm going to make his tail, and I decide I want his tail a triangle. So I could get a cookie cutter, I could get a little shape cutter, but on the fly like this is just fine, just the way it is. So I want his tail to have a little kink in it, I think. Like that, maybe? Yeah, that'll work. Okay. Don't need that much soap back there. So we're just going to stick him back here like this. Push him down just a bit so he lays flat. Okay, because I want the tail to be flatter on the soap so that it doesn't break off. So here's the tail. I'm going to make a little indent for where I want that tail to be. There. And be patient and just let him dry. And this we don't want to stick to the table. And it's okay, you can just take a palette knife and scrape it off if it has stuck. So there we go. And then I'll paint his cone part with a little bit of gold dust right here. So I wanted to point out something. I was inspired by Lady Berry Cupcake from this, and I wrote her because she makes animal cones in fondant. And I wrote her and let her know I was inspired, and I definitely tell people all the time about her. But we're completely different mediums, and so in a sense we're not direct competition for each other. And she was pleasant enough, and you know, it's hard to be completely gracious when somebody's used your idea regardless. And so I told her that I would always give acknowledgement to her for the original idea of these animal cones, because she's a very creative person, and I just simply took the idea and put it into soap. And I've done that many times with different fondant things and polymer clay, and I've seen ideas that I thought, oh, that's never been done in soap, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put that in there. And when I can, some people are, the item or the thing that I've seen is so far removed from the original creator, it's hard to find them. And I've spent half a day trying to find creators so I can acknowledge them. So anyway, that I do the best that I can with that acknowledgement, and there you go. I just want you to know that's where I saw it first. So thanks to Lady Berry Cupcake, and we'll come back and paint this. Okay, now we've let him cure a bit, dry, we'll put it that way for right now. And we're gonna paint this part with gold to make it a little bit more magical. So this is gold, shimmer gold from Nurture soap, mica. It's meant for soap. And then I wanted to show you a couple ways that we could do this. We can just put this on just directly like this, right? And you get just a little bit of a shimmer on there. Or we could, let me get my gold here. This is gold. Oh, let me get, these are little paintbrush things. This is gold with Mayan gold in it, shimmer gold with Mayan gold. And I'm putting a little bit more on there. And what happens when, if you brush it, you get, with a soft brush, you get sort of a glow to it. And then we can, you have to move your mica away, it will. I'm spraying with alcohol. And then pat this on here like this. So the reason I pat it on is because I want it more saturated. Now, when this is used in the shower or in the bathtub, when you use it to actually wash with, the first time you put water to this, all this is going to wash away. So you can pack this on if you like. It will hardly ever reach the skin. So now the reason, again, I spray it with, let's move this here. It helps set it a bit so that it doesn't rub off so much. I can paint this on too, but then it starts to get a little clumpy, and that's not what I want. I want it to shine through. So I just put a little bit of, a little spray of rubbing alcohol on here and just pat it on. And then I let this set, and then right before I get ready to use them, I give it another spray of alcohol to try and seal it a bit. It dries to the soap a bit more. If I spray it too soon right now, what will happen is it'll start to run. Not exactly, but it doesn't give me the effect that I want. So there you go. And there's your little dragon cone. So I hope this helps. Thanks for watching. And if you have any questions, definitely message me, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. And let me know what your thoughts are on it. Okay, thanks.